Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown!
Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown, Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It is Monday, start to your week, and it's looking like it's going to be a good-looking day out there, at least here. I know it's pretty chilly out there right now, but it's going to warm up. Hope your weekend went well. We'll hear about everything that went on. We'll talk to Charlie Miller. Kyler Staley's going to be along. Dustin Dopirak, Jim Reamer. Plenty to get to. The portal has closed, so no more entering the transfer portal as we have hit May 1st. Now I guess we get to see those May flowers, because we certainly had some April showers. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I spent 3 days in a row up at French Lick at the Pete Dye course for the Big Ten Men's Golf Championship. And man, oh man, I wish I would have sent this clip to you, John. Friday, the wind was not bad at all. Saturday, the wind picked up substantially. And then Sunday was a tick more. But when you're up at the Pete Dye course, that's the second highest, where the mansion is. That's the second highest point in the state. Charlie Miller's with us. How are you, sir?
How you guys doing?
Cannot complain. I'm just talking about the wind this weekend up at the Pete Dye course for the Big Ten Men's Golf Championship. It was pretty. It was kind of like I was doing at one time. I was turning around and acting like I was one of those weather reporters doing a report in the hurricane, leaning forward and holding out. They have this giant aluminum flagpole, and it had the American flag at the top, of course, but they had all 14 of the Big Ten flags below it, flying in the wind. But you look up, that the top of that flagpole was bending in the wind.
Wow.
It was. Yeah, I'll have to get this sent over to John. How was your weekend, man?
Weekend was great. I had to go down, unfortunately, to Miami, Florida, Thursday to go to a funeral. But, it was good to see a lot of family I haven't seen in some years. So, it was good. It was a quick trip. It was a lot. Out of 4 o'clock in the morning flights and barely sleeping, but it was well worth it.
I always hate to hear about that, dealing with that. Glad you got to see some other family, though, and hope everything else is okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and then I'm listening.
How was the rest of the weekend other than that? What's coming up for you?
Well, I was going to say, I got a surprise I want to share as I tease it with you. I'll share with you and John, the producer, probably off the air, but it's with the Big Ten Network. As I did an interview with them, and it was about an hour plus long interview for something that's coming up next basketball season. So I kind of gave us a little sneak peek, but it was pretty cool, pretty cool to reflect back on my playing career and why they reached out to me, and it's going to be super excited to share with you, and then we'll find a way to kind of put it out to our Indiana podcast listeners too.
Appreciate that. Looking forward to it, man. But I understand why they reach out to you. It was fun times watching you guys. But, yeah, looking forward to that. It's always good to look back, because you always hear and learn something that you didn't know, or if you did, you sure forgot about.
And now you know me as the teacher coach, and that's why literally I gave them an idea that they ran with that was pretty cool. And I said, well, you know what, instead of meeting me at my home, let's meet me on the court. Let me get to it, because I want to use this as a teaching lesson. I want this to be a teachable moment and an opportunity to reflect on, what could have went right or wrong, or what could have been done differently. So, and they were like, man, I love that idea. So we actually did it. So it's pretty cool, pretty impressive. And I look forward to sharing with you what it's all entailed.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking to everybody on the program today as well. Kyler Staley will be joining us. Like I said, he was up at the Bill Hensley Run and Slam all weekend up in Fort Wayne, where a ton of AAU action was going on, IU targets amongst a lot of others. So we'll talk to him about that. The IHSA, Indiana High School Athletic Association, is introducing two new sports, Charlie. Boys volleyball,
okay,
which is becoming very, very popular.
Right.
They have it at the NCAA league, level, and the other is girls wrestling.
Okay, that was a surprise.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a girls' sport, but I didn't expect wrestling.
Right. But I tell you what, I always loved practicing against the girls volleyball team. As I was helped. I was helped because, being able to jump and spike or challenge the girls. So when they play in the regular games, they had a lot of tough challenges. And I actually did. I participated quite often, as often as I can when I could in high school. And I know it's a very popular sport in the West Coast too, very popular.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's starting to spread because I know club volleyball here in Dallas on the boys' side is pretty big. So it's starting to spread. Wrestling, I'm not surprised. I mean, why not? You got girls interested in wrestling, and in Florida they have co-ed flag football. Yes, football is a staple. Down in Florida, you have co-ed football that's really big in high school, middle school. So I was taken back because I wasn't expecting that, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, volleyball is just a sport that has long been gaining popularity. I mean, I used to play club volleyball myself a lot. There's so many things you can do. You can have girls leagues, guys leagues, mixed leagues. It doesn't matter. Everybody, if you're athletic, you can play volleyball. And you can play it all the time, year round. There's plenty of indoor facilities, or you can go outside. It's easy as hell to go outside.
Man.
And that's a sport that travels to almost any school because you got the cold weather schools. Hey, they go inside and play. So the warm weather schools are used to it. They can go outside and practice as well. But the girls wrestling, I don't know if that's going to be as widely, how many schools are going to offer that is my question. I just think that boys volleyball, that most schools are probably going to be able to field a boys volleyball team. How many schools are going to be able to field a girls wrestling team?
I guess there had to be a petition or something, right? For it to come out, because it can't get past the board if it was not an interest for, I guess, enough schools. So, that's interesting. It's just in general to know that they have that, and to even it's just different, right? It's not odd. It's just different. But we are in a day and time where there's more wide range of acceptance in a lot of things, a lot of sports, and well, hats off to Indiana on doing that. It's pretty progressive.
Yep, we'll see that comes along, how that works. So, but there's a couple of new sports coming in the IHSA. Let's see. Over the weekend, of course, I mentioned a lot of IAU stuff. We'll be getting to that. Indiana signed a new wide receiver from Tennessee. Oh, I want to give a shout out to Mike Ross and My Wow Network, of course, in the Wow Club. Maurice Creek had an appearance at Cabello yesterday. Went very well. He's got his shirt, selling his shirts, and I went down there and saw them play this weekend, Charlie. He's playing for this team in what's called the TBL. They have like 44 teams across the country. They have a ton of them there in Texas.
Yeah, exactly. They so at the pro-am level, I would not say pro-am, but the pro level, regionally, there's a lot of pro teams, and man, it's good to hear guys still have an opportunity to play. wherever it leads to, you just hope that they have voices of reason. I'm not hoping that they think this is going to parlay to the NBA. It might, but that's a needle in the haystack. But yet, kudos, hats off to him for still playing, and having an opportunity to play. Play pro basketball in general. So great job to him.
Well, I went out there. I left the second day of the PGA golf or the Big Ten Golf Championship at French Lick and drove over to Medora. They play in this small town, Medora, Indiana, and it is a small town. But they sure love that basketball team. Man, a bunch of kids coming out and the people of the town. It was kind of cool to watch. And some of the funniest things I saw at halftime, their kids were lined up. They were going to play this thing called biddy ball, where kids get to play each other at halftime. Yeah, they had to line up though, and the line went and it went past the visitors' locker room. And at the half, the guys were coming off the floor going in, and they had to park to let the guys go in the locker room. And I heard a couple of the opposing. This was the opposing team going, "Hey guys, play hard, have fun." They were talking to the kids as they were going in the locker room, which I just thought that was a cool thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, the best thing I saw all night, I was sitting behind the Medora Timberjacks bench, but I was close to the scorers table, and a player for the opposite team, the Indiana All-Americans, which I believe is a Kent Benson's team, was sitting there waiting to go in, and it's so informal. That's another great thing about it.
Right.
It's more informal than a high school game, but I think they need to have a little formality and stop letting the kids walk in front of the benches and the scorers table. Wow. But it was pretty damn funny because I wish I'd have got this guy's name. I just started laughing so much that I didn't write his number down, but he's sitting there, and he's big. So as he's sitting up, he's as tall as this kid is walking by. Wow. And they were selling their pizza and they would give it to him in a bowl. And this little kid's, he's walking by and he's walking by right by this guy getting ready to go into the game. And the player just kind of gently stops him and says, and just kind of pushes the bowl down. And, hey man, what's in there? Hey, you want to share that? It was just hilarious. And that kid didn't know what to think. He was just messing with him. It about busted me up. It reminded me of the movie where League of Their Own, where what's her name steals a hot dog out of the guy's thing. But I thought it was hilarious, and it just showed I'll tell you something else I noticed I didn't think about till last night. I didn't see a bunch of bitching about calls.
Yeah.
And these guys were out there playing hard and playing to win. I saw the normal, like, oh man, come on. That was it. That was it. And I'm like, it was competitive. It was fun. Medora jumped out to a big 15-point lead at the half, and the other team came back, made it a game. Medora still won, but Kellen Dunham, 4-year starter at Butler, was on the other team. There's just a guy from Auburn. There was a guy that just had gotten back from Ukraine on Medora's team. It's just a cool thing. Actually, there's 4 teams in Indiana. There's one up in Lebanon, one in Kokomo, and the Anderson team is kind of nomads, I think. But the team up in Lebanon, they get to play in Lebanon's high school gym, which is a cool as hell gym. That's where they shot blue chips, man.
Right.
And how were you not in blue chips?
That was 2 years before me.
Oh man, doesn't that suck? You could have been in a major motion picture.
Yeah, because you had Matt Nova, Galbert Cheney, were featured, right?
Eric
Aronson, right?
Big E was in there.
Yeah, exactly. You had guys featured, man.
But you also had on Indiana's team at guard Hurley, Phil Hurley.
Oh yeah. Bob Hurley. Yeah. No, and I heard about those games. Like they actually played Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
actually played, and it was pretty competitive, to really, to really get the scenes going. They actually played. So it's cool to know the backstory of the movie.
It's better than that, Charlie. Not only did they played, the quote unquote Western University team was supposed to win.
Right.
Bob Knight would not. He said F them, and he kept playing to win. So they had to shoot. They had to shoot around Indiana not losing the game to make it look like the other team won the game. He wouldn't.
Got all you need to go tonight.
That's funny. Hey, we got to take a quick break. Kyler Staley's joining us. He was up at Fort Wayne all weekend looking at a bunch of prospects and former Charlie Millers. We'll get the report right after this. Brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone and everybody else at mywownetwork.com and the Wow Club. Southern Stone, trying roots with limestone and love. Southern fare with good Southern charm. Make sure you join the Wow Club. It's a free app. Sign up. Start learning rewards today. Wow Club members earn exclusive dining discounts, dollars to spend sent directly to your mobile phone. Just go to your Apple App Store, your Google Play Store. Look for the Wow Club. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
What's going on, Kyler? How's it going?
Hey, guys.
Kyler, Charlie Miller is on with us, former All-American, Indiana basketball player.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing, man?
Good. Big fan. Big
You
fan.
know what? I ought to start introducing people like they do in golf. Next up, from Miami, Florida.
Nice.
Former All-American, Charlie Miller.
There you go. And what I forget what match it was, but I think they started running off Tiger's accolades, and I think Phil said, "Okay, enough." Okay, enough.
I got to tee off, man. Come on.
I love it. That's right. Like, I don't want to hear all that, and I got to get ready. I got to get ready for this first shot. Yeah, that's awesome.
I hope.
Kyle, where do you live at? Is it Kyler? Where do you live at, buddy?
Kyler. I'm up in Fishers, Indiana.
Hey, Fisher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
From Bedford, home of Damon Bailey.
Oh, on the street, man. My former neighbor.
Really?
I mean, I'm joking. When I was in Bloomington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About 20 minutes away from Bloomington.
Exactly.
Growing up.
Right. Yep. The ride I married, my former wife is from Evansville, so the drive back to Evansville from Bloomington.
Hey, does she have family in Evansville?
She does.
Well, this show's on radio there every day in 97.7.
At one.
Okay. Yeah. Well, she now lives in Raleigh, North Carolina, but yeah. Actually in the family, he has a deaf cousin that plays at USI. Plays at USI right now. A huge basketball fan. Her dad played at Purdue for a couple years and then went to Reamer. So, basketball's all in their family.
Hey, Charlie, I can't think if, excuse me. I can't think if we've asked you this recently, but do you remember how much longer you have doing school this semester?
Yeah, so school's out for me the week, like Memorial Day, pretty much school's out, right?
Okay.
And then okay, John, but then
you go back to AAU, don't you? After that, don't you?
Yeah, my camp schedule. Like I didn't realize I'm going from Anchorage, Alaska to like Colesville, Utah to Denver, Colorado. So I got like 9 days on the road, and I don't know. I'll let you know what my Monday looked like.
Good to know. Man, I'm losing my voice already, y'all. Here we go.
I'll give you a heads up.
Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio, coming to you on this Monday, getting your week started off right, brought to you by our good friends at Cabello Restaurant. Yesterday, Maurice Creek was out there doing a meet and greet, talked to several people, had a good time. Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com joins Charlie Miller and myself right now. He was up in Fort Wayne at the Bill Hensley Run and Slam all weekend. Busy place, Kyler.
Yeah, no, it was the annual Bill Hensley Run and Slam this weekend. Pretty much takes over the entire Fort Wayne area. All the high schools up at Sports One, Turnstone, Spies Center, Spies Fieldhouse. Saw a lot of the better teams in the Midwest area. Pretty cool because you typically don't see like all the Adidas circuit teams, the EYBL teams, the Under Armour teams all in one area. So got to see some interesting matchups. Saw guys like Xavier Booker, Gabe Cupps, JQ Roberts, a lot of them.
Flory Badunga, Raleigh Burgess, Cooper
Yep.
Cook, Travis Perry, Kanan Cutchings, Jalen Harrison, Trellian Sisley. You mentioned Gabe Cupps, Rayvon Griffith, Reed Shepard, Mackay Johnson, JQ Roberts, like you mentioned, Logan Imes, Jake Davis, so many names there. And JQ Roberts, I saw, had an unbelievable game, 20-point second half game. That shocks me because he's not been a big offensive guy to me. He's more of a defender or a rebounder.
No, yeah, like with JQ, I don't know what it is, but he seems to impress me every time I watch him live. He looks a lot more smarter on the floor than what I've seen in the past. And the game that I watched of his on Saturday, super explosive around the rim. That's where, when he got out in transition and his guards were able to find him, it was an easy bucket every time with him. So, freak athleticism and everything. You got to talk to him a little bit afterwards. He says Indiana still has a strong relationship with him and everything. But, he had a really good weekend.
And it's kind of, you have to look to where he would fit in, but he's a 24 kid, right?
23
kid. Yeah, next year. So, well, there's no point even looking at that roster where people would fit in a year from now. That's crazy. We just finished up. We don't know where people fit in right now. But the transfer portal is closed. So there's that. Which I'm sure maybe some of these high school kids were happy to see. But anything stand out? Any performances really stand up this weekend?
I would probably say, specifically looking at the Gabe Cupps versus Xavier Booker matchup.
Gabe Cupps, of course, is a guard. Xavier Booker, a big man, 6'9", 6'10" guy.
So, obviously they weren't on each other a whole lot, but Xavier Booker looked really, really good that game. And at Cathedral during the high school level, he's a little bit limited on what he can do. You got to run that Cathedral offense and things. But, in the AAU, he's a lot more free. He can do what he wants. He's just a very, very skilled power forward, stretches the floor well, really dominant down low, rim protector. He had a really good game. And from what I heard, he had a really good weekend as well. Gabe Cupps was another guy. He had a pretty good performance. Struggled in the first half a little bit, but the second half he started to take over a little bit. But when it came down to it, George Hill just had too many better pieces on their side of the ball.
Charlie, you participated in these endeavors when you were going through your cage career early on before you became an All-American. It's what got you to an All-American, becoming an All-American. How important are these summers? Is this AAU circuit for these guys?
I would say now, I think it's very important because the opportunity is a lot more available. And compared to when I was coming up, it was more of an exclusive circuit. It was more of an invite only. It was limited as far as the teams. So you had an opportunity to meet people on the road, travel and play. And then I think from there, for me, in reflection, that's when I realized, okay, I can't compete across the nation against the best players in the country. That was a surprise to me up until that time. Now, I think, something I was going to ask Kyler, I think it's more almost expected from these guys because they get a chance to travel, as young as, here it is, this player you just talked about, not even thinking about being a prospect, a couple of years from now, but yet he's on the circuit getting interviewed. I didn't get interviewed until I think my freshman year. It was like, a little tape recorder here or there, from someone giving you a statement. But it's this exposure is amazing. I'm tickled. I'm tickled that these kids have an opportunity to not only have the opportunity to play, but they also you said a couple of things I want to kind of highlight, Kyler. They also get a chance to learn how to play with poise and confidence and smartness. Versus for us, it was more, you got to show your offensive skill. You got to show what you do. So it's sloppy sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. The cream of the crop will rise, but these players now, they're used to getting on a plane. They're used to having an itinerary. They're used to playing against the best players. Like that puts you in a composed state of play to where your IQ can be off the charts when you do reach prep school, college, whatever it might be. So to me, I think that's the biggest advantage I see that I understand now as a player development coach.
And I noticed that Trent Sisley had a little struggle with some size, which is a little surprising. Being big, he's a 6'7" dude, and with a nice body. But if we're talking about Flory Badunga, that's a different beast altogether.
Yeah, no, he struggled a little bit with the size.
But Flory Badunga is a big guy,
big dude, big guy. That's a name that you need to always start remembering.
Trent Sisley is not going to be expected to guard someone like that. I don't think.
I mean, Flory Badunga. It's just like when the ball's in his hands in the paint, it's almost like a magnet to the basket. It's just going to go in every time. Sisley did have a good weekend.
Is Badunga? Is there also even any point in us talking about Flory Badunga as far as his recruitment? From what I hear, he is locked down to a specific coach, if that is accurate.
That's what I'm hearing. I know last year Fife had watched him a little bit. Obviously, Fife's not there anymore. Flory did just get an offer from Bradley. So I don't know how much you want to read into that, but that's what I've heard. I've heard he's locked into somewhere. Where that is, don't know. It is also pretty hard to, interview him and stuff like that because there is a language barrier with that and everything. So you can't really get a whole lot from him. So that's as far as I know about his recruitment.
I was just curious how that is. But getting back to Trent Sisley, he's a 25 kid, so it's a ways off. And Charlie, it's sometimes it's like, why are we talking about a kid that's going to be a sophomore? And just like Jalen Harrelson, the same thing, because they got 3 more years of high school ball. But both of these guys, Charlie, they're special players. One's a 6'7" wing. The other one is how tall is Harrelson? 6'3", 6'4"?
I think he's 6'5". Yeah, 6'5".
6'5". And they look like freshmen in college. They just finished their freshman and high school seasons. They look like they just finished their freshman and college seasons. Harrelson is a point guard who looks kind of like a fullback who can rise and get a shot off. And like I just talked about Trent Sisley, this kid, he's a 6'7" rangy wing who can rise up and nail and got good 3-point stroke. But they've got 3 more years of high school ball, which is amazing.
But that's my point. To me, you wouldn't hear about them until their junior year. And all of a sudden, they're probably 20 pounds more heavier and that much more better. Now the opportunity is just that more greater where you can hear about them and to know that they have so much more potential to reach, but the exposure they're getting, playing against the next players coming up. It's just going to position them so well that you just hope that they can be on your radar, and that we can see them wearing an Indiana Hoosiers uniform.
Kyler, coaches wise, was there any coaches out there this weekend?
No, it wasn't an official live period.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
Yeah,
I take
I
that
forgot
back.
about that.
There were Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO, all those schools were out, and everything, but it was not a official live period. But it was still, one of the more important weekends of the year, just because there's so many, media out there, and there are still some scouts watching and stuff. But no, it was not a live period, so no Division I head coaches out.
Anything come out of that this weekend? Anyone closer to a decision towards any place, or anything that stood out to you?
So I was able to talk to Xavier Booker a little bit. He looks like
he seems like that's been kind of tailing away from Indiana from all indications.
Yeah, I asked him what the relationship was like. He said it's still pretty strong right now. He said he's looking to make a decision probably sometime his senior year. Which is coming up next year. But I don't know.
Yeah, I hear Michigan State pretty tight in on him.
Pretty tight. Yeah, and he also had mentioned that Notre Dame and Michigan are recruiting pretty hard as well. So, but yeah, everything that I've read, I've seen, it seems like Booker's going to Michigan State. If I had to put all my chips on the table.
Any surprises this weekend? I mean, there can't be hardly. It's hard. It's almost impossible for an unknown to pop up, but at an event like this. But sometimes guys that haven't really done a lot can have big games. J.Q. Roberts, big 20-point second half. That's a big burst because I haven't seen him score much at all when I've seen him play.
Yeah, JQ was a big surprise. Another person that really stood out to me was Indiana elite guard Travis Perry, 2024. He's a point guard. Indiana just started, sending out feelers that like, hey, we want to recruit you and things like that. Talked to him a little bit. He said Brian Walsh is starting to build that relationship with him. Really crafty and creative player. Loves to get into the lane, and if he can finish at the rim, he'll go for it. But if not, he's good about getting that pull-up mid-range jumper. Really good. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Indiana will have Gabe Cupps in the 2024 year of 2024, but looking at like a backup point guard spot or something like that, Travis Perry could be an option there. They haven't officially offered him yet, but there is some interest starting to build there.
Anything else pop up that you're up there? Or is it just pretty straightforward?
It was pretty straightforward. Like I said, it was most of the Midwest teams that were that participated in this. Like I said earlier, really cool to see, Indiana Elite taking on Indy Heat. You don't, normally see that from times, all of those big shoe circuit teams being there. Really good weekend. Takes over all of Fort Wayne. Just really fun. Got to see some good basketball.
Sounds good, buddy. Appreciate your time, and I hope you have a good day. What's up for you this weekend?
Nothing. There's no basketball this weekend. And then the following weekend, basketball starts back up. I'm pretty sure there's the Adidas May Classic, I think is in 2 weeks. If I can remember the schedule correctly. And then
Adidas May Classic in Indianapolis, and also the Prep Hoops Havoc in the Heartland.
Yep. So I'll be
Indianapolis.
at both of those.
Where are those events actually taking place?
I'm not for sure off the top of my head. I'll have to look deeper into that, but it'll be in the Indianapolis area.
Would make sense. Kyler, cannot thank you enough, buddy. Give him a follow, Kyler Staley with thehoosier.com. Complete coverage of Indiana's recruiting and all that more. Have a great day, brother.
You too. See you guys.
You bet. Charlie Miller with me here on Indiana Sports Beat. Do you miss those days, man, having to go to all those games as a player, Charlie?
Man, I mean, I do. I do miss that, and then the camaraderie, because also, back then, you got a chance to play with people in the state that you typically would compete against. And you all joined together forces to go play against other, say, states. So it was like almost an all-star team put together of like the best from your area. So, you get a chance to learn about these guys that you don't like for no reason other than you play against them. But now you get around them, you realize you eat the same cereal, you like the same cartoons, and you're just as silly as they are. And now, everything comes together because of the basketball. So I miss those days playing and the experiences. And to share one with you, the last AAU experience I had, I played on a team called the Orange County All-Stars. with names, notable names like Tony Gonzalez, Doug Gottlieb. There was Doug Gottlieb's dad, Coach Gottlieb, who coached us, and that was due to a relationship that my high school coach had with him back on the East Coast. So here I am from Miami playing on this Orange County All-Star team of all these players from California, but just fond memories of those times, and playing in Vegas, by the way.
That can never be too bad. How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. Like I said, weekend was great, man. Other than traveling to Miami over the weekend, getting back, and other than that, and just kind of getting a chance to see some family I haven't seen in 20 plus years. Now that's one thing that those players may have to realize is going to happen. There's going to be some times they're not going to. There may be some family they're not going to see for a long time because they're going to be traveling, playing basketball, man. So that's one of the things that I definitely tell players now. Take heed to creating opportunities once you can, because once you get submerged in that game called basketball development, playing for your life, I mean, that becomes your life. A lot of sacrifices of birthdays, funerals, a lot of events that you may not be able to attend because you're preparing and you're playing. And that's just the reality of this thing we call high level sports, high level basketball.
Absolutely, brother. As always, I appreciate it. Looking forward to you getting back on here full time so we can talk more. Yes, and I want to give Forrest, I saw he commented earlier, I want to give him an acknowledgement, man. I appreciate him for looking at my YouTube coaching videos. So please follow us at Attack B-Ball on YouTube. I have a lot of teaching videos. I do about 20 a month. So I've really ramped that up on a lot of things I've learned and putting out there. So I appreciate you for the opportunity, man, to share this, Jim, and thank you for allowing me to be on the show as well. Absolutely. Forrest said he saw Logan Duncombe at Kroger yesterday. So that's funny. There you go. That's funny. Didn't expect to see that. I just thought it was funny. Buddy, I appreciate you. Can't wait to next week as always. All right, man. You guys have a good one. Thank you, Charlie Miller. Thank you. Joining us here as he does each and every Monday. Dustin Dopirak is coming up next year on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Looking forward to that as well. Brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, or Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, and Cabello Restaurant, a part of the Wow Club. Make sure you join. Just go to your Apple App Store or Google Play Store. The Wow Club is the only mobile app you'll need. Start everything today. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington. Hello, Dustin.
Hello, Jim. How are you, sir?
I am just peachy great. How was your weekend?
Exhausting. We cleaned out the old apartment.
Oh, man.
You still had the old apartment?
Oh yeah, through May 2nd was our lease. So May 4th was our lease. So they gave us.
How long have you been moved in there?
We closed like March 12th, but like we didn't move the big stuff over until like beginning of April, because obviously we had the tournament and everything, so we had to get stuff ready. We had I had stuff I was working on, so we got movers like April 2nd, and we got like most of our like the bed and everything and the couches and all that in. But we dragged it out because we could, but it's like one of those things where it's like, and we had so much stuff jammed in there, and like we didn't really have a full weekend we could just do it, because it was like we had either I had basketball to cover, a little 5 to cover, and then we had Easter when we went to go see my mother-in-law, and it was like, all right, we had visitors the weekend before, so we never had a weekend we could just do it.
Yeah.
And this weekend we just, one drive after another drive after another drive after another drive.
I went to Fred Slick for the men's Big Ten golf championship.
Oh yeah.
I know those guys, so I know it's not a big sport, but I know those guys. So I wanted to go down there and cover that. And Friday was great, but I've sent a video to John, and hopefully he'll be able to get it up. I'm
putting it up right now. Give it about 30 seconds and it'll be ready.
To get an understanding You probably haven't been there, have you?
I mean, I've been to French Lick, but I haven't been in the course.
Okay, well, they have two. They have the Donald Ross course, which is on up the hill from the resort, and then the Pete Dye is back behind it, and it's way up on top of the hill, which it is the second highest point in the state of Indiana. That land is just by that peak where the mansion is, which is very cool. That's another story. I'd never been to the second floor, and we were up there all weekend. But anyway, the flagpole is just on out front. And the wind was blowing hard enough that it was bending this big old aluminum pole about this far at the top.
Oh my God.
Which I was like, holy crap.
15 seconds. The video is ready for whenever you come back on the air.
And I'll send you a picture, John, you may be able to use. It looks like I'm skydiving. For more information, go to the Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference in you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Please welcome Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald. Dustin, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Jim. How about yourself?
I cannot complain. I did not get blown away this weekend. I was down in French Lick at the Men's Big Ten Golf Championship. And, John, you have that video? We can't hear
sorry.
you.
I felt very unprepared for that bringing me on. Sorry. Yeah,
that's all right.
Ready.
I just wanted to get this out of the way, but this is a shot of, it looked a very cool shot. You've got the American flag at the top, of course, but they have all 14 Big Ten flags that go right to the bottom. But as I pan at the top, look at the top of this aluminum flagpole and how much this thing is bending. And it is bending in the wind. Go ahead and run that, John. That was bending. Yeah. And I'm like, I was like, and initially I was kind of just sitting. There were some bushes around it to decorate it. And I was just sitting down below those bushes. There was not a wisp. You could sit there and be just perfect. Huh. It was like you could hear nothing, feel nothing. It was great. And wow. So a friend of mine said, "Hey, come here. You better come up here. That thing may snap." And I'm like, that ain't gonna snap.
And we apologize if you're on radio. Obviously, that just sounded like a bunch of ridiculousness because you couldn't see the video. But
wind,
it was a huge bending aluminum pole with
and I
sent flag on it.
I sent a picture to John that I took of myself, or had someone take, where I just had my arms out. It looks like I'm skydiving. The jacket is just pressed against me completely. You can see where it's filled with air, and it looks like someone is underneath of me and took a picture of me skydiving.
Wow!
And I was email that one.
And I wondered the whole time what it would be like to actually have a parachute on my back and stand there and pull that ripcord, because though it was gusting about 50 miles an hour. So I'm thinking that would have taken me. We were on the 9th fairway, so I'm thinking I probably would have ended up somewhere over on the 5th fairway somewhere with those winds up there. But fun, it's always fun up there, though. It's worth going. It is beautiful there. They got the casino open, and everything's wide open down there in the beautiful town of French Lick in West Baden. How was your weekend, man? You got your moving, you got all that done. That's always good to have that stuff out of your head now.
Yeah, we're finished. I mean, we had the lease on the apartment up until yesterday. I had to turn in the keys before 9 a.m. this morning. So we finally got everything out, got it cleaned up a little bit so we, don't look like we beat the place up too much. But that was an all day, 2-day event. I mean, like you keep thinking, oh, well, we're almost done. We're like, yeah, we're going to have another car trip here. We're going to have another car trip here. we're gonna have to have one more. We got to get now we got to get the vacuum that we've been using to clean the place. We got to make sure we get that in. We've got this rug that we have to move now. So I made the last trip home at like midnight last night to finally get everything in this house, and my house looks like, it looks like we started over, but it's done. Is the point. We don't have to go back there. Everything is now in my house, and so that is a big relief of not thinking I've got to just go back and forth to the apartment.
See, you also know that you have no plans to move at this moment in your life. Not to say that it would never happen, but
Right.
at this time in your life, you do not have an expected move date.
No, exactly. Don't have an expected move
I
date.
know I'm going to have to move because I want to be someplace different. So I know I have to do it again, and it aggravates the living heck out of me.
Yeah. No, I imagine, I don't think we'll live here forever, but we don't have a lease. We have a mortgage, and so that's different.
Yes.
It's mildly terrifying, but it's like I got auto pay set up, so I feel better now. Like that was like when we got the thing, and then you give them the huge down payment, you're like, oh my God, what did I just do? But you get the thing set up in auto pay, and you're like, okay, I don't have to, as long as I have the money in the account, I'm good. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to press a button. I've done the thing. We're set. I'm not going to screw this up.
Speaking of auto pay, there are plenty of guys from Indiana that will be able to go on that. A lot of Raheem Lane signed a UDFA deal.
Yeah.
What's that?
Undrafted
free agent. Undrafted free agent. Yeah.
It makes it look a lot, with 4 letters, it makes it look a lot more complicated than it is.
And capitalized. They were capitalized. Yes. I'm like, what? I was
undrafted.
Like,
in that case, the D should,
it's like the USDA.
It should just be UFA, but exactly. It looked like it's government regulated or something like that. Like it had to pass through the bureaucracy somehow and an agency. But no, so
Caleb Jones, Ty Freifogel, Raheem Lane,
Ryder Anderson got a mini camp invite. Peyton Hendershot. So Peyton Hendershot and Freifogel are both going to Dallas. Caleb Jones to Green Bay, Raheem Lane to the Chargers, and then Ryder Anderson got a mini camp invite with the Packers. So that's the whole setup there. That's how everybody ended up. I think that was about what everybody expected, but the big sort of change, I guess, in terms of what you would expect going into the season was Ty Freifogel. And it does seem like his performances were pretty harshly scrutinized for how his senior year went, obviously, because he might have gotten drafted if he entered last year. But he certainly had I think he came into this thing thinking that, day 2 at least was a possibility. If not day 1.
How many guys actually, honestly, hurt themselves by coming back to Indiana for last season instead of leaving after the breakout season the year before?
I think just Ty, honestly. I think Freifogel was the only one that really hurt himself.
McFadden wasn't. McFadden he was pretty strong.
Yeah. 5th round was. I think it was higher than you would have expected. McFadden's deal was McFadden had a strong season. McFadden just bolstered who he is. And the issue, I just read some of the critiques. One thing that's interesting is the NFL.com critiques are harsh. If you think you have to sort of really dig to find out what people really, really think. The stuff they put up on NFL.com, they get after you on that. Just like your scouting page on the main NFL website is rough. It points out that he's like running backs run away from him. If you bounce out runners run away from him. I was like, that's rough. That's harsh. I don't know that it's false. But it's, you went there. I think but it was a lot of the same critiques. It's like his athleticism is not over the top great. His length is only so much, but I think the positive thing on there on the NFL one was his neck is as thick as a quad, which is not false at all either. So and I think McFadden's one of those guys that'll hang around for a long time just because at that level, when it comes to all else being equal, intellect matters, hustle really matters,
and heart
really matter. Heart really matters.
He's got all
really
of those.
Have to want to live it. And there are guys that have enough talent that can get by with not. that just have natural gifts that keep them in for a while, and people will keep giving them chances, and eventually it might work out for them. But like when it comes down to 5th and 6th round guys, the guys that make it are the guys that really, really, really care. And Micah McFadden really, really, really cares. So, I mean, like, as far as, I mean, I can't imagine that he didn't score off the charts as far as his interviews went and stuff like that. I mean, a guy who really gets it. I mean, like, you can just see on film, obviously, if you're an NFL scout, that like this guy did the work. This guy did the film study to know where the hole was going to be, how he was going to be able to shoot it, what kind, play diagnosis, being able to read run blocks and know where there's going to be an opening so he can knife in there and make a play, and play, therefore play faster than his 4.6 40, because, if you know where the play is going to go, you can play faster. Basically, if you have a sense of what point you're running to before you start running, that goes a long way. So I think obviously that performed pretty well. I mean, he goes into Don Martindale's defense, and Martindale likes to blitz. So, obviously he's a guy who was really effective as a blitzing inside linebacker. That's really going to help his cause. That really fit. So I think 5th round was as well as you could expect it, for Micah McFadden, and that's solid. Just gets him on a team. So like I said, I don't think he hurt himself. I think Ty Freifogel hurt himself. Not only it wasn't sticking around that hurt him, it was that there are games when it does not look like he is all in, that hurt himself. I think that's where, like last year when he was fighting for combat catches and going all out, like this year, I think they saw him give up on routes, and, I think that hurt him. Putting that on film does not help your cause, and I think that stung him. The rest of the guys, Peyton Hendershot obviously was better off. Putting another good year on film, I think, and he needed a year to get past. I mean, he didn't have a good 2020, particularly good 2020, and I think he had to get a year past, obviously, his arrest. So I think that he's probably better off, than he was a year ago. I don't know if Caleb Jones helped or hurt himself. Raheem Lane obviously was out 2020, so he had to do that to get back in an undrafted free agent situation. The guy I think who is worse off than he was a year ago was Tywan Mullen, just for having been injured. I mean, I don't think he could have come out after last season. But if he could have come out after last season, he would have gone a lot higher. And obviously, he's sticking around for another year because he had to. So, and there are probably other guys, maybe Devon Matthews might have been better off leaving after his junior year than if he would have, So a lot of the guys I think that hurt their draft stock, or their draft stock was injured by reasons that, not really their fault, because of injury or whatnot, stuck around. So they were kind of aware of that.
Indiana also doing well off of the portal, bringing in a wide receiver from Tennessee, former Tennessee wide receiver.
Yeah, I haven't looked into him too much. I just saw that yesterday in the midst of running back and forth. But no, I mean, obviously they've done a good job of hanging in there on the recruiting end of it, of just, finding transfers who need more playing time, who need more opportunity. They obviously have to add more when it comes to that, basically at wide receiver, just try to get as much talent as they can, because obviously that's just, the wide receiver running back room really just changed over entirely, and they've stayed in the market for those guys. They stayed in the market, obviously, for defensive tackles. So they keep trying to add guys. I mean, it sounds like it went well. As far as who they added already, I mean, obviously there was a lot of raving about Cam Camper, through spring practice, as well as a lot of guys were happy. The coaches were happy with Emery Simmons, so that speaks well. And I think even basically they're really happy with what they got out of Sean Shivers, the Auburn transfer in the spring so far. So they've kept their heads in there, kept looking for guys, that not too many people might have heard of, but they played someplace else. Obviously got some talent, and just saying, hey, here's an opportunity. Here's a wide open room. Nobody has an advantage here. Nobody has seniority. Nobody has basically anything. Maybe, obviously a couple guys in the wide receiver room have some level of seniority, but, like you're going to have a wide open shot with several other guys we're bringing in at the same time. So you got as much of a crack as they do. So I think that's appealing well to guys, and it's giving them an opportunity to go chase after some people.
And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but every time I talk about Indiana football now, I'm like, why are we really talking about this? Because I don't think that Indiana I don't think that Indiana can compete with Michigan and Ohio State going forward now with NIL. It's in place. It's just not in football. I mean, basketball, yeah, it's going to work great. Football, it's going to be the opposite. And I think it's going to create a bigger chasm between the Indianas, Marylands, and Rutgers of the Big Ten East, whomever in the West. But just on that side of the ledger, I think that separation is just going to grow. And just maybe here every now and then you win one for the Gipper, but man, it just seems like it's going to be much, much tougher than ever with this, because they have money. Let's be honest, because they all have, minus Michigan State, 100,000 plus seat stadiums that are filled every week with paying customers, which means they're generating tons of money versus Indiana's 25,000 or 30,000 people that are coming in. You multiply that against the merchandising and the concessions and the donations. So everything is just, holy crap. The disparity, Dustin, is it's like trying to think of where's the end of space.
Yeah, I mean we're just really at the scratching the surfaces of finding out where it's going. I mean, I think we had a lot of discussion this week. I mean, I think the Jordan Addison move that is apparently impending, between Pitt and him going from Pitt to USC, because he hasn't even gone in the portal yet, but it seems like Pitt expects to lose him, and Pitt is very, very mad about it. Really between Nigel Pack last week and Jordan Addison this week, it seems like the earth moved a little bit when it comes to this thing. I mean, my belief on it for a long time was just that these kids are just not. They are worth money. Their name, image, and likeness is definitely worth money to people, but I just didn't think the numbers would be too huge at the end of the day, just because you're talking about what if guys can't go pro yet, they're only worth so much. And I thought also that they would only be, wouldn't necessarily be willing to move to go get it, for one thing, and another that there would be just people wouldn't be willing to throw massive numbers at them, because it's just like, okay, what's your payoff? What's your return on investment? I don't know this dude who runs Life Wallet, this company down in Miami that I didn't even know about, but I'm looking at it and it's a really
he's a billionaire, and he's a billionaire.
It's a really good idea. I mean, it's one of those things that it's like, hey, well, that's the thing you might want, because it's like has all of your medical information like on your phone, so you can present it to your providers, because like there's issues with being able to share that if you have it yourself, on your phone, as opposed to having to carry papers around and remember your own medical history. Like, it helps. It's really helpful. So like, it's like, okay, this guy must be really smart to have come up with this idea, or have financed it or whatever, basically, to be in charge of this. And it makes sense to have healthy student athletes as front people. That's worth a certain amount of money. $800K in a car is absurd. You're not getting that payoff. There is no way you're getting that return on that. So you're just doing it just to make yourself look cool. There is a return, I think, for having, he's got like an ad space, on his site with all these kids, and they look healthy and whatever. And it's it really fits basically like this kind of advertising that you would want for sort of a healthcare, basically some kind of healthcare device, some kind of healthcare app, healthcare anything. It looks good, but it's like, all right, like, yeah, those kids should get some thousands of dollars for, pitching and, doing whatever else they want to do as far as, like outreach or whatever. But like nobody individually that's going to do that for you is worth $800K in a car. Like, no way. And so it's like, all right, like my thought was like, these people are too smart to throw this money away. To just do
this guy's not making any bones about it. He has earmarked $10 million to Miami.
He's doing it just to do it. And
he's got deals with over 111 athletes personally, I believe.
Yeah. And it's like, and the thing was like, he's got a whole page of these kids. And I'm like, all right, like, but like paying them each some modest amount of money makes sense to me. It's like, all right, we're going to get, 100 Miami kids to be the face of this. and like, I think University of Miami's got a big, really good medical school. As far as I know, you can connect with that. And you bring the athletes in as pitchmen and pitchwomen, and it's not just football and basketball players. I mean, they've got women's volleyball players and stuff like that, and so it makes for this sort of inclusive deal, and it looks pretty cool. But then, like, when you're going to pay one of them $800K to come in as a transfer, you're like, wait a minute. Now you're just, it's like you're changing spaces on this. It's a weird sell to be like, I'm going from, giving you this great product for your health to, I am going to try to make Miami a better basketball team. It's just like, where, how did we get here? And then the Addison thing is just really a game changer to be like, okay, like, we're going to throw money at somebody who is not in the portal and say, come to our school. Okay. And, we'll pay you this amount of money. And it's apparently a 7-figure deal. And I don't even know who's giving it.
You can't say that, Dustin. You can't say, come to my school.
I mean, come to the school that I support. So apparently Lincoln Riley can't make this call. Like, this is a call made, like, the booster makes this call, or whoever. Maybe he's not a booster, but one way or another, he wants USC to win football games, or he lives in Los Angeles, or whatever it is.
Right.
Like, I don't know, maybe it's a USC or UCLA deal. One way or another, I'm in LA. I'm throwing this money at you for you to come be my pitch man. I need you to come out here. I don't care where you go, but I want it to be in Southern California. So like that's where we're moving the needle in a way that I didn't foresee, and I guess it should have been. And ultimately, I know people came out back at me at Twitter talking about this week, and ultimately it's still like I just still don't know where you get the right to tell these kids they can't make money. But I would not be opposed to policing of saying like you can't call a kid to tell him you have a deal for him someplace else that he is committed to where he already
Are we going to, what about a salary cap, man? Is college basketball going to need a salary cap?
You can't have a salary cap because, again, the issue is they're not taking this from, they're not taking it from school money, so like if they were taking it from school money, it'd be a different ballgame. You could limit how much they could make. But and on the flip side to it, it's better that they're getting it from these people than from, just gutting your athletic department budget to pay them. Because if you did that, then you would kill all these other sports. And like, I do think the inclusivity like matters in terms of having opportunities for people. Like, I think that's still the most important thing is I don't think you could deny them the right to make money off their name, image, and likeness. Because where does the NCAA get the right to deny you that?
Oh, yeah.
In a capitalist American society.
Well, and that's another story.
They can't make money. But on the side, if you take this out of the athletic department, that you don't have a women's volleyball program anymore. You don't have a track program anymore. You don't have a tennis program anymore. Like those things, like volleyball probably makes a limited amount of money. You charge maybe $5 a ticket to get in there. You're not charging money to get into a track meet. You're definitely not charging anybody to watch tennis. So if you want these sports to continue to exist, like you can't take all the money that the players are making and give it to them from the athletic department budget, because you'll just have the money making sports and that'll be it. And so, you'll get rid of all those opportunities every other kids had to get scholarships. So if you still want that inclusive thing, you can't have these kids get paid at that level across the board out of there. I mean, Ohio State can afford it. Texas can afford it. Michigan can afford it. Indiana can't afford it. To be able to pay to have 24 sports and to pay their basketball players $1 million a year. Can't do both.
Nope.
Not all of them anyway. And their football players, 6 figures, you can't afford to do that. So it's better this way, but yeah, I mean, the NCAA did not come up with ways of regulating it. They dragged their feet on letting it happen so much that they never thought like we're going to lose these cases in courts eventually. Eventually, someone's gonna be able to bring a court out that says amateurism is opposed to basic labor law. So we're gonna have to have a system in place to let this happen, and let it work itself out. And so now there's no regulation. Nobody knows what to do about anything. So
I agree. And that's going to be my next question. We got to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will draft NBA draft combine invites go out today. Trace Jackson Davis most likely going to get one, but also what will become of the NCAA. It's basically been neutered, and it was always almost a paper tiger anyway, because it was like the Wizard of Oz. If anybody ever actually went behind the curtain, I think that they would have seen Mark Emmert standing there holding a microphone going, "I'm the great Oz." But we got to take a break. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore, and her 2 decades of experience could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald-Times is with us. We're back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
All right, you'll have about 8 minutes in this next segment before Jim Reamer comes
Well, we can stretch into Jim's time.
Well, if he's sitting there waiting, I wouldn't stretch it too much, but do what you want.
He can listen and enjoy the friendly banter.
Jim will kill me on this.
Don't
Jim,
keep,
if
and obviously it's up to
NIL,
Dustin, but
Jim
don't
won't
stay
lose
in
it.
too long.
John, I didn't hear you, Dustin. Dustin, what did you say?
We're good. I was going to say if we get Jim in when I'm on my NIL piece, he'll kill me. He'll be all over me on that.
All right,
you strongly anti.
You guys know each other? Oh, that's perfect.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you can't not know Jim if you're around the basketball space long enough. You know?
Oh, we'll do that then. Oh, I'd love it. If you got time, we'll get her going.
Don't let me debate him. I'm going to lose.
Yeah, it's fine if you want to stick around when he brings him on.
No, I'm good. You can have him on. You're good. I'll say hi and we'll move on. you can let him crush my arguments if you want, but no, I'll let him get his space too.
I don't know how you cannot be pro. You have to be pro. It depends on the form, but there's just no way you cannot be anti. That is anti-American.
I mean, that's my thoughts too. I mean, obviously, if you're anti, it's because you don't like what's happening. I mean,
well, I don't like it, and I don't have to like it, but
it's like you can't stand in front of it. It's like saying, but I mean, they managed to hold it back for how many years?
That's the problem. They stood there and held that water back and held it back and held it back until boom, it was like a tsounami. And that's exactly, they're getting hit like a tsunami.
Right. And one thing I said, I mean, like that was kind of the point I made on Twitter. It's like, someone was out here saying like, well, it was Matt Berry, I think the Sports Center anchor, who's like, all these people were saying, well, you got to pay them and you got to let them go in the portal. They got to be able to move. They got to be able to transfer. And nobody had a plan for it. And now this is college football. And it's like, well, the problem is no one's had a plan for what this was going to be since they started charging money for tickets. Like nobody was prepared for it to be $1 billion industry, and nobody adapted to the fact that, well, the people that play in $1 billion industry are eventually going to be noted as labor. And so, I mean, like I would argue, obviously, that like a scholarship is compensation for labor. It is, but like on the same side, like kids that get a scholarship for some other reason aren't told they're not allowed to make money doing something else. Like athletes were the only ones that were told they were not allowed to make money off of themselves. And so it was like eventually that was going to be viewed by the courts, and they were going to say, no, like you can't do that. Like you are keeping someone from being able to profit off themselves. And that's not something you're allowed to do. This is America. We're free and we're capitalist. And, like as long as we are, you're allowed to go make money off yourself. Like
10 seconds.
Help one course.
Here we go.
Allowed to do that.
From Remax Advanced Realty, let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. I hope you are having a great start to your week. I hope we're helping you do that. It looks beautiful out there from my standpoint. Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald-Times is with me, brought to you by the Courtroom Bar and Grill down in Bloomington. Of course, they are bringing you the annual Crawl Fest. The 4th annual Crawl Fest, sponsored by Courtroom Sports Grill, is back Join us for the Crawl Fest May 13th and 14th at the Harp Commons in downtown Bedford. This year's event will be headlined by a country superstar and Hoosier native Clayton Anderson. They are planning for this to be Bedford's biggest crawl fest ever, with the biggest crawfish boil around, complete with a beer garden stocked with local craft brews, live music Friday and Saturday, fun for the entire family. Where else can you get all you can eat, listen to great music, and all on a beautiful Southern Indiana spring night? Kicking off summer early. For more information, go to the Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page. You can find out all the information. Look forward to that. That's the weekend after Derby. Lots of stuff coming up. Dustin, this is Derby week. Kentucky Derby this weekend. The Crawfest Boil the weekend after that. The Indianapolis 500 would, I guess, might be 2 weeks after that. But the month of May is just going to fly by. And then you add in the basketball. There's no basketball this weekend, but that's going on. It's just a ton of stuff. And I remember dreading the summers when I first started doing this show, because now it's like, holy crap, it has not slowed down. I mean, other than being at a game all the time, which I was just at the golf, but I mean, other than that, it's like it has not slowed down a lick.
No, and it doesn't. I mean, the news always keeps going, and it hasn't even been a particularly off the charts newsworthy cycle, for Indiana. But there's always something to talk about. It's just with college sports now, there's just all this movement, all this everything. And shoot, we didn't even have a spring game. Like we had a lot of spring. We talked a lot of spring football. We did a lot of Zoom calls, but like we watched no practice at all. We did not see one single play except for what showed up on the Twitter account. But it's still obviously staying involved in that. Just obviously a little bit of drama with Indiana basketball with the Xavier Johnson case, and a couple guys leaving the portal, a couple guys coming in. The Malik Raynow edition. There's been just enough news, but it doesn't slow down. And obviously college sports, like as we just talked about in the last segment with NIL and the portal, have given us a lot to talk about. As like I said, we're seeing this. We're seeing the earth shift under college sports, and we don't know where it's going to land, basically, where things are going to be when things resettle. It's given us a lot to talk about, obviously.
I've already talked about this, so I'm not going to spend any time on it with you. But I went down to Medora Saturday night after I left.
That I got to do. I got to go through now. Yeah,
They've got a couple more home games, and I'm telling you, it was entertaining and competitive basketball. I mean, you had Kellen Dunham on the other side. He played 4 years in Butler. Yeah. So
I thought he'd be in Europe still.
It was fun to watch. I mean,
Dunham was a heck of a player.
Those people got into it. It was just fun. Something fun that I think that the other teams around the league are doing. I'm hearing they're getting good attendance, like 2,000 people at Lebanon, which is where they film Blue Chips. I mean, so you got Kokomo, and then there's 4 Indiana teams, and all the other teams. It's Kentucky has teams. There's teams in Texas. There's like 44 teams, I think, right now in the TBO. So kind of a cool thing to watch. But the NCAA, man, they're basically neutered now, and with Mark Emmert stepping down or being fired, really, basically. And everyone finally just lambasting him, which I had stopped doing that. And I'd said, you know what? At the end of the day, this is the school's problem. This is the president's fault. But now I'm like, okay, well, because I don't know, was it Emmert who would get behind closed doors with the presidents and just beat on the table that no, you cannot do it? Did he lead that fight? Or was he the puppet? Or was he just a puppet?
I mean, I don't know that it was. The thing is, too, a big thing is you got to remember that all the presidents aren't on the same side.
Right.
I mean, like you're because you're talking about managing conflict and ultimately trying to put out something that's, solid out of a group of people that can't not be fractured. I mean, like like when you're talking about the whole of the NCAA, but you have to remember, like, we're talking about 3 divisions here. He was overseeing 3 divisions. So we're talking thousands of schools. We're not talking 150. We're not talking just the Big 10, Pac-12, SEC, Big East, Big 10, Big 12, whatever. Like we're talking thousands of schools that he has to be concerned about and get their read on everything. And obviously, Division I drives the train, but you still have to care about all of Division I. You're talking about the non-football schools in there. You're talking about the smaller leagues. You're talking about 1AA. Everything, and like all of that. It's like, okay, like everything trickles down. Whatever you're dealing with. So you're getting everybody's opinion on it. And I don't think, ultimately no, these presidents didn't want to pay these kids. They didn't want their money taken out of their athletic department budgets. And a lot of them knew that something like this could happen if they let them get paid. So they didn't want to regulate that. They would rather just say no. They were going on this amateur thing, and they threw, their whole weight behind it for all these years, saying, amateurism is this principle that we're going to uphold because it is something, student athlete, or what the ideal is supposed to be. And, they were just, throwing things in the face of reality for all these years. And they were like, well, we're still getting away with it. As long as we can get away with it, we better keep getting away with it. And, the Alston case happened, and, the O'Bannon case happened, and those was like, basically it was eroded away to the point that it couldn't go anymore. And then when they saw that the dam was going to break, then you had, the fact that you had sort of bipartisan in state legislatures, people pushing for this, like this was, in terms of congressional legislation and state legislatures, we have nothing else happens with this degree of unanimity right now, because every state was trying to make sure that their schools didn't get left behind. So all these state legislators pop up and say, no, NIL for my state. And okay, well, if you're going to have it, then I better have it. As like, that's not happening anymore. Like you look at what gets passed in state legislatures right now, it's butting heads between each other, between, states that are democratically controlled and states that are Republican controlled. I mean, like, stuff gets done for each party, but, they end up, clashing certainly at the federal level. And and what's getting passed is not all going in the same direction. But on NIL, it did, because it was like everybody wanted their state school to make sure that they didn't get passed up if there was going to be NIL. So basically, state legislatures and Supreme Court cases forces this thing to happen. And, it wasn't Mark Emmert that was standing there, trying to thwart this all by himself. There was a lot of presidents that didn't want any part of this. Some of it are ones that are going to get run over by it. And, that's a piece to it too, is smaller schools or schools that, might be part of big leagues, but know that they've got presidents in their leagues with schools that are able to overwhelm them. I'm sure stand up and said, we don't want this because we're going to get killed. We're going to get crushed on this. So, I'm sure that the answer to Ed Briggs's question, he's asking, is there agents involved? Yes, there are.
Yes, there are.
You can have an agent involved because you have to. Basically, you have to be able to get legal representation when you're talking about some of these.
And you can sign with an agent now and still maintain your eligibility. That's not the same deal, but they can't be negotiating,
forcing you to get out. Yeah, and so and you. I don't think your agent can't talk to your school. That's a big piece, as far as I know. I don't think you're allowed to have an agent talk to your school or to the school you want to go to, but they can obviously deal. You can have representation dealing with the people that are giving you NIL contracts. And so, that's just, as much as that sounds skeezy, you need it. When you're talking about these kinds of dollars, you have to have legal representation involved.
Well, Mr. NIL, Jim Reamer's in the green room. We can bring him in.
Jim, you're going to kill us on this. This has been Jim has been fighting this fight. Well, I don't for a long time, and it is probably everything you were afraid of might happen.
Well, yeah, a lot of that is true. I think the one thing that two things I've maintained, and is that obviously I value the value of a scholarship, and I also know that these players have been getting paid, above board, within reason, stipends, and I've not been fighting the notion that players could work directly with companies and leaving the schools out of it is actually kind of a happy middle ground for me in terms of the functionality of it. So I look at it like that. Obviously, we know there's instances where it's outright pay for play, but I don't know yet how to avoid that or how to change that without really digging in and creating some sort of rules at the NCAA level or having some sort of federal legislation, which is what the NCAA wants, at least in terms of talking points, where the NCAA wants federal legislation to deal with it on a countrywide scale as opposed to having it be state by state, where there's just basically quick paper laws put out saying no one can stop you from making any of these deals. And then you see what happens with guys like Nigel Pack and what's going on down there at Miami, where one kid comes in because he gets a big windfall and the other kid leaves. The other kid may be better, but
yeah, probably is.
Now he's leaving.
Nigel's pretty good.
Yeah, now he's leaving because he couldn't renegotiate a new deal. So I don't think that's what anybody wanted. I don't think that's what anybody actually involved in the game who cares about the game wanted. And it's interesting to see who's not crying over it from a talking head perspective on a national level. So, no, I don't know that I've ever been against players getting paid. I've just been an advocate of they are getting paid. I mean, the last group of kids I coached all the way through, of the 71 kids, the lowest stipend was $1,400 a month.
Sure.
And that was above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a college kid, you can't live on $1,400 a month.
On top of your rent, yeah.
And that's not to say they don't deserve more.
Mm-hmm.
That's just to say if they're not being oppressed. They've never been. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's been a long time since a college athlete, a football player, or a basketball player has been financially oppressed.
No, but they weren't getting what they could have gotten.
True.
And if look at Nigel Pack or Oscar Shibwe, I mean,
but those who are claiming free market, it's not a natural market. It's a contrived market. It has way more to do with the name on the front of the jersey than it does with the name on the back of the jersey.
And who has the money behind those? Who, as far as fan bases, who has bigger fans with bigger pockets?
I mean, if Mark Cuban, Scott Jones, and the Cook family decided they wanted to go all in, this stuff would get crazy real quick, wouldn't it?
It would. Yes, Indiana would be one of those schools that could be in the top 5. But there's money everywhere. I mean,
there is. That's a lot.
That's a
lot of billionaires there.
What if Warren Buffett wanted to turn the University of
Nebraska,
Omaha, yes, into a power? That's exactly what I was thinking.
Right,
exactly. The University of Nebraska, Omaha, which is not the Nebraska you're thinking of. It's like Indiana University Southeast, or
it's like IUPUI.
Yes,
it's IUPUI
because it's IUPUI because
I think they're Division I now.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked a lot too about it's only a matter of time before
Bellarmine's another example. Bellarmine down in Louisville. What if they're a billionaire said, all right, I'm going to make them. Basketball is a sport, then I don't want to use the word manipulated, but basketball is a sport that can be augmented certainly by NIL very quickly and the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm. Especially at the mid-major level, you could. I mean, Wichita State would be a great example of that. Although they're in a multi-bid league now, so they're kind of more of a high major in disguise. But at the same time, like Houston, Houston could all of a sudden start landing some big-time prospects and have Kelvin Sampson coach them up. Wouldn't that be ironic twist of fate?
Yes.
Not that he was ever outed on him in terms of like paying players, but just in terms of
not playing by the rules.
Right. Here's a 2-time loser of the rules. All of a sudden reaping the benefits of what could be. I mean, Furtada, who owns the Rockets, actually sat by when they were here for the Final Four. Actually sat by him at coaches, just coincidentally. Had no sitting next to him, and actually I was sitting next to his security guy, so he was 2 seats down, and he told me who that was, and I was like, that's amazing, because he paid for this whole party, even picked up my bar tab when I was down there waiting, and all he had, I mean, he was here because he's a huge Houston guy, like University of Houston guy. I don't know how involved he is with, I know he's kind of penny pitching the Rockets, but all he has to do is decide that his pockets are wide open for his alma mater. And, all of a sudden Houston's, has their way to get some of these players. But Yeah, I've not been dead set against it. I think a lot of it was how was it going to work? And I didn't see the schools doing it. I didn't like that idea because, well, one, what happens to the other sports?
Yeah.
Two, what happens with Title IX? You've got to absolve the public. The public universities have to they have to be able to operate under the same rules as the private universities, or flip it.
Right.
Is Notre Dame as beholden to Title IX as Indiana University?
That's why
is?
it's so difficult, because the schools know that they don't want to get too far outside of that or have the appearance of getting too far outside of that. But at the same time, they're like going, hey, this is not me. This is the NIL. But this an NIL, if it's their quote unquote NIL arm that they're kind of working hand in hand with, then it
could be an issue, but
yeah,
I mean,
that's one way to avoid it. That's one way to avoid it.
It is.
Yeah,
I mean,
someone's got to put together a really strong legal case if you're going to hit somebody up on NIL.
Real quick before John cuts us off here to break. Yeah. It reminds me of a story back when Title IX was really sweeping across high school sports. There was a situation in Florida, and I've told this story a lot, maybe not here, but in different places, where this guy donated a lot of money to build a really nice baseball field at this school. And it was on land that he still owned, et cetera, so forth. And the people of the community fought it because they wanted a softball field too. And it went to court, and it turned out the school couldn't use the field unless there was a similar situation for the softball team. And you know what? The guy said, screw it. He scuttled the field.
Yeah.
So the boys' sports in that instance, of course, if it was girls, nobody would have, if it was flipped, it wouldn't be outraged. But it just shows the difficulty of Title IX. Obviously, at the college level, even at the high school level, sports were eliminated because they weren't able to financially handle, beefing up the girls' side. So they got rid of boys' sports instead. So,
well, Indiana's adding boys volleyball and girls wrestling to the
state of. It's not done deal yet, but it's they are almost, I forget what the term they use, but they're transitioning into looking at it as a definite sport. It's still 2 steps away from being a fully subsidized sport, but it's only a matter of time.
I think you just described the NCAA and the IHSA transitioning into looking at it, into doing. I love that. Dustin Dopirak, what do you have coming up, man? Always busy at the Bloomington Herald Times covering Indiana. He's all over.
Yeah, what am I doing? I had a baseball piece out this weekend. I got a Matt Ellis story out this weekend. They had a good weekend. They took 2 out of 3 from Illinois. I didn't get a chance.
Won the series, which is rare for them. Is that the first Big Ten series they've won?
I don't think so. They might have won another one, but they had to come back yesterday. They're down 7-3 and came back and won 11-7. That was a big one. They had a walk-off win on Friday night, or Friday afternoon, because they played that one earlier. So they did all right. I don't know. We'll jump into everything. We're officially at when everything's kind of done. I have to find something creative to do. So I'll figure out what that's going to be.
Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter at Dustin Dopirak and at the Bloomington Herald Times. I cannot thank you enough as always, man. Have a great week.
Will do. See you, Jim.
All right, buddy. We will see you,
Dustin.
Soon.
See you, Jim.
Dustin Dopirak here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more after this, brought to you, of course, by our good friends at the Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford. Don't forget the 4th annual Crawfest, sponsored by Courtroom Sports Grill, is back. Join us for the Crawfest May 13th and 14th at the Harp Commons in downtown Bedford. That's the weekend after Derby. That's 2 weeks. This year's event, headlined by country superstar Hoosier native Clayton Anderson. They're planning for this to be Bedford's biggest crawfish event ever. Biggest crawfish boil, beer garden, craft brews, live music Friday and Saturday, all you can eat, great music. Hopefully the weather's awesome. Just go to Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page for more information. We're back with Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
Hey, John.
Yes.
I'm going to log in real quick, so I'm going to probably disappear. I'm going to log into my browser.
Okay.
Will I be able to type in that chat room if I do that?
Well, if you just open a different tab,
that's true. Yeah, let's do that real quick. Hold on, let's see. All right, there we go. That worked. Nice. So I didn't disappear. That email already exists. Hold on a second. Let's see. Let me log in. Oh, that doesn't exist. Oh, that's what it said. Okay. Okay, I'm logged in now. Let's refresh. Hopefully, I'm going to refresh now. Hopefully, I don't lose.
Yeah, we'll lose you now. There he goes. Yeah, Ross. I was looking at some of these comments. Tebow and Ross, they're hitting the nail on the head. This is why players down there aren't getting the NIL deals, mainly for Kentucky, because Mitch Barnhart has a lot of issues with NIL.
So I can't answer people in the chat room directly. So I'm logged in now.
Oh, are you talking about on the stream?
Yeah, I can on the comments part. I can do the private chat, but I can't.
Oh yeah, you should be able to respond to comments if you're logged in.
They're not. It's not letting me.
Oh, it's not.
That's right. It's the last couple of weeks there have been people asking me questions directly. I just want to.
I don't know why. Sometimes it does that to me. It's odd.
What? Not let you respond directly?
Yeah, I won't even see. I'll have to go out and come back in, or a sign in is what I usually have to end up doing.
Right. I'm logged in and it won't let me do that. Hold on a second. Is there something else I need to do here? Let's see. This.
All right, here we go. 20 seconds.
Through 2021, Honda certified pre-owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday, brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Of course, part of the WOW Club. Make sure you go and get your WOW Club. Sign up, Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Feast Market and Cellar, located next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers, offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff as they take their pairing very seriously, Jim. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, and pastries, all mouth-watering just for you, Jim Reamer. Use that wild card and get signed up there. I went down. I've talked about this a lot already, so I won't spend much time on it. But I went to Medora this weekend. Ed asked, what was the crowd like? It was a couple hundred people, man, but they were all into it. They were into it. A lot of kids enjoying themselves. It was good basketball, and I recommend it. I think that, I mean, I know what they're doing, but if they were in a bigger town, they would get bigger audience. Just, I mean, I know that sounds simple. They'd get bigger crowds. They're there's nothing around them. Say if they were in Mitchell, for instance, well, you got Bedford next to you, and then you've got Orleans down below you. And but hey, man, that town loves that team. They're enjoying the heck out of that. I saw a whole bunch of merchandise people walking around wearing Timberjacks merchandise. Just Kellen Dunham, saw him play. And of course,
is it at the high school?
Yep.
Yeah.
They play their games at the high school. Maurice shooting lights out, man. Had 4 triples in the first half. I think he had a double-double for the game.
A lot of it could be just high school availability. Some schools.
Well, no, it's these teams are placed. They want it there. There's relationships with the team ownership there. So that's part of that. They have a stats crew. I mean, this thing is organized. They have a stats crew. Actually, and Medora's stats crew was a stats crew of the month. But it's organized. And I told somebody earlier, I didn't see the players bitching and moaning about calls. I mean, other than like, oh, come on, man, and that's it. I mean, it was nothing. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. Guys trying to win. And they were just they were playful with the kids. There was a lot of kids around, and it didn't matter which team it was. They were interacting with the kids, which I thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, that's why they're doing it. That's why you have these games, because the kids, right?
Exactly.
You want them to grow up and be part of the sport, and you want them to have good experiences. And I think the NBA level, the highest professional levels, FIBA, NBA, are really the biggest offenders of officiating abuse. You don't see a lot of constant chatter at lower levels. You obviously see some emotional responses from kids and college players, but it's not the same. You're not getting the Draymond Greens. You're not getting that type of activity. Some of the biggest talkers in the game are, they've all different camera angles around them, and you could read their lips and see what they're saying. And it doesn't really happen at lower levels, which is good, even though kids still say stupid stuff every now and then. But it's good that that's not trickling down too much, at least to that point.
Let's see. Ross talking about Caleb Glenn heading to Lalu.
Yep, that was big talk this weekend. I don't know who. It's Caleb Banks that plays with Cups, right? No. Who is it that plays with Cups? Why is that?
Are you talking about on this circuit?
Yeah, Midwest. Yeah, it is Caleb Glenn, isn't it?
I believe so, because he plays with Reed Shepherd in that group.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that's why it was big talk. For some reason, I thought there was somebody in that team that was committed to Indiana. See, that's what I mean. Once you got outside the state of Indiana, kids, I don't know much about them. Obviously, as I watch them, I see who I like and who I don't like, and I got a chance to watch Gabe Cupps play this weekend. So,
how was he?
I liked him. I don't know. Still wish they would have gone after Braden Smith, who committed to Purdue. But I liked him. I don't think he's going to come in and play a ton right away. Of course, it depends on who's playing.
Cupps is a little taller, right?
Than Braden, yes. Yeah.
Braden, is he 6 foot?
He's 6 foot 6'1". I mean, he's definitely taller than me now. That was as of the fall, the last time, because he was injured in the fall, so he worked for me, the fall league that I run.
What's the difference? They both can shoot the ball, but it just I don't know. Is Cupps a better on ball handler?
No, I would say they're equal in that regard. I think that Cupps is bigger, not a ton bigger. Braden's quicker. Braden's a better shooter. He's got more range. He's got a quicker release. Cupps, they both have incredible vision. Look, I think Gabe's going to have a nice career at Indiana. I think he'll be one of those kids that he really reminds me a lot of Neil Reed, just a tougher version of Neil Reed. There's going to be Tebow. Jim Reamer's 5'8". No, I'm not 5'8". Braden Smith's not 5'8". But I like Cupps' competitiveness. I like his decision making. The ball there's not a lot of inefficiency when he has the ball, and he's equally good off the ball. He'll screen. He communicates well with his teammates, and he's a willing. At this level, he's a plus defender. I'll be curious to see how well he defends at the high major level, but he definitely will be a willing defender, and I think coaches can work with that, especially if he's got other pieces alongside of him where they can cross match and maybe not put him always on the quickest guy. And who knows, maybe he gets to the point where he just shows that he can do it, and he's an above average defender in the Big Ten. So
the portal has closed, so that's something we don't have to worry about tracking anymore. But I was just wondering, and I haven't been able to find it yet, but how many are actively in the portal at the moment? Yeah, you've gotten up to 1,400, I know.
I don't know. Transfer portal. Do we know that number? Transfer portal.
I don't. I had too much going. I couldn't find it, but
looking it up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give a real number, like a real time estimate.
Because I haven't heard a ton of announcements, so
Right.
I wouldn't expect that number to have dropped a lot yet.
I found a football one. I didn't find a basketball one.
I'll have to look up also. What's the latest you can transfer? I mean, is it before it starts?
Well, yeah, you can transfer anytime. The free, it's the free one time.
Right, but I mean,
free move.
You're not gonna want to go during the school year, so you have to do that before this fall semester starts.
Yeah,
so
kids
you want
can
to certainly be
yeah,
enough and go.
Kids can transfer all the way to the start, all the way up to the start of the school year. It's the free transfer, the one time free transfer that the May 1st is the deadline for. So. Still trying to find a list.
I thought the portal was closed, period, unless you're a grad student.
No, anybody can transfer.
Really?
This is just the one. The May
now,
1st.
Yes, but you'd have to sit out a year.
Correct. Yeah, it's the May 1st is the deadline for the one time free.
Gotcha.
Is the one time free. So the question is Luke Brown was his move to Ball State considered a one-time free one?
We'll talk about that when we come back. Speaking of free, Tim, he says Jim Bubba's 33 was rocking. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville was rocking Friday night. Told them I'm gonna listen to you, and they gave the show, and they gave me a free appetizer. That's what happens, baby. Go to Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. And that's exactly what happened. Tell me you heard them on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Free appetizer, and their food's pretty damn good too. I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by restaurants that are excellent. Excellence, baby. That's it. It's like I had dinner at Cabello yesterday with Maurice Creek. It was some salmon dish. I don't remember the name of it, but I didn't care what the name of it was. I was in heaven. It was amazing. Hey, we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Reamer's with us from Courtside, Indiana. Brought to you by our good friends from the WOW Club. Totally free app to sign up for. Start earning WOW rewards today. Go to your Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Look for the WOW Club. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting, did you go anywhere this weekend?
Yeah, we played up at Fort Wayne.
Oh, you were at
this past weekend.
The Hensley. You were at the Hensley?
Yeah, I stayed at the main place and watched a lot of different games.
How many places they have up there for that?
It ends up being a lot. The three main ones are the Plessman Center, which is actually part of a rehab facility, like an occupational therapy rehab facility, and then Sport One Fieldhouse, which is part of the Parkview Hospital Network. And then they have Spies Fieldhouse, which is, of course, where it always used to be, but now that's sort of going by the wayside.
Are you talking about those onion straws at Bubba's 33? Because is that what those are? They are amazing. They are good. They come with they have a shrimp dish, a shrimp appetizer. Woo, it's pretty good. But I don't think they're onion straws. I don't think they're onions. They just seem like they're just, who knows? But they're good. I haven't been down. I'll get to go down there this week because I'm going down for the Derby. Hopefully doing the show from Churchill Downs on Friday, people. Haven't done that for a couple of years.
I don't see anything that produces a number. I'm looking at a current list, but it just shows obviously, well, I guess I could page it out, but that's a lot of hitting the next button.
Hey, 2 new sports added to the IHSAA, men's volleyball and girls wrestling.
Yep. Not full time, not full yet. they're in their exploratory phase.
Well, I mean, those are the two sports that are.
Yeah. They'll get that done today, probably. Girls wrestling will be easier.
But will that be very popular, you think?
I think so. I mean, I think it's, you don't have to have a full team to have a team. You know what I mean? You have two girls who could wrestle, and you got to wrestle. I mean, I think the question will be coaching. I don't know if boys coaches, would step over and be part of that or what, or if it's just you do it all at the same time and you just have the girls go one direction for events and boys go the other. I mean, that's how a lot of track and cross country coaches situations are handled. So I don't know. I think it would be up to how each school handles that.
All right, bringing us back.
We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, brought to you by our good friends at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, right off of I-65. When you're down there, it is easy to get to and worth the trip. I'll be down there myself later this week and looking forward to it. I'm looking at the article written by our friend Kyle Nedrip from the Indianapolis Star. Jim Reamer is with me from the Courtside, Indiana. In regards to the IHSA, a pair of sports mentioned boys volleyball and girls wrestling will be voted on as an emerging sports. If both sports receive support, they will be put on a path towards becoming a recognized sport by the IHSA in the future. A bylaw change made last year allows the board of directors to designate a sport as an emerging sport if 20 schools are sponsoring the sport and 10 letters of commitment are submitted from member schools that currently sponsor or intend to sponsor the program. It only takes 10. That seems shocking for a sports organization that has how many teams?
400 and change. But that's just to be part of an emerging sport, which means they start looking at it, and it has to be a certain number of schools that has to produce it, that has to have those teams before they actually consider fully sanctioning a sport. So, it's the first step.
Yeah, it takes 150 or more schools participating with a minimum of 40 from each district that have sponsored a full program participating for a minimum of 2 years. So it's got a lot to go through. I mean,
yeah, it does.
When you add a new sport, this is not an easy process.
Boys volleyball will be interesting because it competes directly with another spring sport, which is baseball.
So it's going to be in the spring?
Yeah. That's what they're playing it now. Yeah. There's a lot of boys volleyball now, but it's all spring right now. I don't know if it would shift. I mean, they probably would be better off. I don't know. It's hard to say if they would be better off going in the fall, because I don't think there's too many people who play football and boys volleyball.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because you know that basketball is the one that they don't want it to conflict with, but it would definitely probably conflict with the start of basketball season.
It could, yeah, especially with the preseason stuff that they do with the workouts and all that stuff. But there was a kid once, that 6'9" kid that moved from Winchester to Noblesville. I can't remember his name. It's been a while. And everybody's like, oh, man, that's all Noblesville needed. It was a big kid. They had a really good group. I think it was right after Coverdale went through there. It was the Chris Hartley group that Hartley ended up being a walk-on and got a lot of playing time at Purdue during his time there. But the kid went to Noblesville and only played volleyball. Didn't play basketball, just played volleyball. And I think he ended up going to college for it. But it's a pretty niche sport now. I've yet to lose a kid to boys volleyball, so that's good. I've had to compete for some baseball situations, but I've yet to lose a kid. And it's a more natural progression being a basketball player and being a volleyball player. It's a similar athleticism. It's a similar athletic traits to be good at one versus good at the other. And it's only a matter of time before we start running into kids that play on boys volleyball teams that, now have to juggle that schedule with a travel basketball schedule.
There are 36 states currently that recognize one of the sports and 25 states that recognizes one of the other sports. Which do you think is which?
I'm guessing girls wrestling has more.
Why would you guess that?
Because it's easier to do. You don't have to have you just have one girl wrestler and you've got a sport.
Yeah, but you don't have a team. That's not going to, I don't think that does not help the state move. I don't think they consider that a team. You have to have a team to be a part of
what defines a team? They wouldn't have to have that's why that's one reason why Carmel and Center Grove are leaving the MIC is because they don't have full teams in other sports.
How on that? Like
golf and
if Carmel does not have a full team in anything, then
no, I'm saying the other schools in the MIC. That's why they left because they would go and the other team would have like 4 runners or 4.
And see, that makes no sense to me though, because every school in the MIC is a big school.
It's just how it is.
It should be a requirement to be in the damn conference then. Well, seriously, if you want to be in it, because that is to me, that's the conference of the state. I mean, that is generally the toughest. But you're out.
There's a lot of smaller schools that don't put full teams out, that don't put fully staffed, like full teams out. I don't know how other else to say it. Like they don't always have contestants in each event, whether it be track or they don't have enough runners, but you still have the individuals who participate in those sports. There's smaller schools that don't have necessarily tennis teams, but they're part of the tennis part and their players play in the state tournament.
There's a lot of proposals going before the IHSA of importance, and that's probably the least of one that we've talked about. The out-of-state
least interesting.
Yeah,
it's the least interesting of them.
Exactly.
I like the rest of it.
The out-of-state
the rest of it.
The out-of-state contest limitations directly affect coaches and taking teams. Indiana teams have been hamstrung, not able to appear and play in other tournaments that are too far away beyond 300 miles. Is that from their school or from the Indiana border?
From the border, state border.
Which is ridiculous. But
it's to keep big schools from having, or schools that have somebody who's willing to pay money from being able to just play in these events and then recruiting kids from other schools saying, look, we play a much tougher schedule than everybody. The ridiculous part is that these schools couldn't go out of state and play somebody who was further away. Like you couldn't have. So what's being considered for change is that now somebody who's more than 300 miles away can come to Indiana and play, or they can play somewhere like in St. Louis. Like Indiana teams used to go to St. Louis every year to start the season. WRV, White River Valley, back in the Graves days, would go over to St. Louis and play in this event in November, and they wouldn't be able to play teams that were further than 300 miles away from the state line, but they could play teams that were within that. So they would go over there and play somebody from Illinois or something like that, or play somebody that was directly like in the St. Louis metropolitan area, but they couldn't play teams from further out of that radius. So what this new rule suggests is now, as long as the Indiana team isn't traveling beyond 300 miles, then they can play anybody they want. And that makes sense. I'm not sure why they ever had it. I guess because they wanted to work with other states and say, if we're not letting our teams travel, then we shouldn't accept their teams to travel too. But now I like it. I'd like to see some of these big events come to Indiana and let some of these Indiana teams play these teams that are across the nation.
Well, there's also some even more interesting things that are on the a potential docket, and the ones that stand out though are involving eligibility, one without a change of residence. Currently, of course, you have to move into a district to play for someplace different without having to sit. A new proposal would call for limited eligibility for 365 days from the date on which the student last participated, but would allow full eligibility in all other sports.
Yeah, it makes no sense. That's just, unless Kyle wrote that wrong, it doesn't make any sense. What they're saying is that, like, if you're a basketball player and you transfer, you can't play basketball for 365 days, or you have to play JV, but you can go ahead and play other sports.
Yeah.
They're just wanting kids to be able to play in other sports. They want to be able to fill those roles, especially for kids who transfer to smaller schools. So that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping is that somebody will transfer from a big school to a small school. They'll limit their ability to play the varsity sport that they're really transferring for, but they'll let them play the other sports because they need the assets. What they should do, this is the Jaden Brewer rule from Ben Davis. What they should do is you should just be able to transfer to the school where you live, even if you didn't start there. I mean, he lived in Wayne Township. He decided to go to Avon as a freshman, which the IHSA is fine with. But then for circumstances that who cares, as long as he wasn't recruited, he should be able to just go to Ben Davis without having any issue. But the IHSA fought it tooth and nail and finally lost. So it cost him playing time.
There's so much more we could talk about. We'll have to do it next week, and look forward to doing that, because there's more things on there that I do want to talk about. But Jim,
we can do the pass link rule next time if you want to pocket that.
There's that, and there's more. There's a transfer option with a change of residence I didn't even get to talk about. Right. Having people having to move 75 miles or more. But anyway, it's been a great day as always. Jim Reamer from Courtside, Indiana. Thank you. Make sure you give him a follow. He does a great job helping out with thehoosier.com, keeping everybody up to date on what is going on, and does a great job with us as well. Thanks to Charlie Miller, Kyler Staley, also from thehoosier.com, who was up in Fort Wayne. Get a recap on all that went on up there at thehoosier.com. Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald. Big thanks to him as well. John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, there's no reason for us to be here. Make sure you go get your Wow Club signed up for in your Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Appreciate you. And most importantly, subscribe. A lot of you guys that are listening, most of you are not subscribed on our YouTube page. Subscribe, hit the like button, and give me a follow on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. You guys go out and have yourselves a great day. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.